this tutorial I'm going to be showing you how to do the camel stitch border. I'm using Karen's Simply Soft and a 5mm crochet hook, but of course you can use whichever yarn and hook you prefer. You will also need a pair of scissors and a darning needle for sewing in your ends. I'm going to leave a link in the description box, so click that show more button or the downward arrow if you're watching on a mobile device, and you'll find a link to the blog post with all of the information that you are going to need for this video, including the pinnable image so that you can save this to your Pinterest board for later. Don't forget to like and comment on this video, subscribe and click the bell button to be kept up to date with all of my latest videos. Before we get started, I do just want to point out that I have added a foundation border to this square. So if you haven't seen my video that I've done previously to this, it talks about how to prepare your blankets for a border, and this is a really easy way to do it. So you're using a double crochet, which is a UK term. In the US this is known as single crochet, and it just creates a really nice base for adding borders and making them look nice and neat and tidy. So again, I'll leave a link in the description box below for that, so make sure that you go and check that out before you continue with this video. Okay, so as I mentioned in the video for preparing for a border, you can choose to do your corners in different ways. For this particular example, I have done 3 double crochets into the corner, so that middle double crochet is the very corner space. However, you might have chosen to do a double crochet, chain 2, double crochet, or double crochet, chain 1, double crochet. So just bear that in mind, but you want to insert your hook into whichever is your corner space of your foundation row, and then you want to go ahead and bring through your yarn. So I'm choosing to use the same colour yarn, but you may choose to use a different colour. I used a contrast colour for the foundation row just so that you could see it, but I do encourage you to use that as the same colour as your project, just so it looks nice and neat and tidy. And then at this point you could use a different colour. So we are going to go ahead and begin by chaining 2. This does not count as a stitch, it's just lifting us to the height of our next stitch. And then in this section here we are going to start off with a half treble crochet. So that is a half double crochet in the US, which is yarn over, insert into that same space, yarn over, pull through, you'll have 3 loops on the hook, and then yarn over, pull through all 3 loops on the hook. So that is your first stitch. Then it's pretty simple. We're going to work our way across to the opposite side, and we're simply going to do 1 half treble into each stitch all the way to the corner. Now what's good about this pattern or this particular border is that it doesn't matter how many stitches you have in your row. You can do this in any amount of stitches, so it doesn't have to be calculated how many stitches you've got to your corner. So go ahead, work your way to the next corner. I'll show you how to work this corner and then continue. Okay, so we're now at this corner space, and don't forget, for you this might be a chain 2 space at this point, but for me it's an actual stitch. So regardless of what you have here, you're going to do a half treble, a chain 2 and a half treble into that same stitch. So that's always what we're going to do in the corners. You're going to rotate your work round, and then you're going to continue doing a half treble into each stitch all the way to the next corner. So you want to pause the video, work your way down the edge, work your half treble, chain 2, half treble into the corner, work the edge, work your corner stitches, and then work the last edge. And once you get back to the beginning section here, meet me back and I'll show you how to finish off. Okay, so once you've worked your way all the way round and you've met yourself back at this corner space, you want to go ahead and do another half treble into that space. Ignore that chain 2 that we did, and go ahead and chain 2 to make the corner and join with a slip stitch into the top of that first treble, half treble crochet, like so. So now we're going to move on to round 2. So we're going to chain 2, does not count as a stitch, and we're going to go ahead and start our camel stitch. So for the camel stitch, we work into the 3rd loop, or the back bar. If we were to go into a stitch normally, it would look like we have the front loop and the back loop here. If we twist the work, you can see that there also looks like there's some V's going across here, and this right here is your 3rd loop. So before we get started with those stitches, we're going to do 1 half treble into that corner chain 2 space, and then we're going to move on to the half treble into that 3rd loop, that back bar of your stitch, like so. So we've done a corner, half treble, and then our first stitch, and we're just simply going to work this all the way across, just like we would do in the normal camel stitch. Once you start to add a few stitches, you'll see that that third loop actually becomes a bit more visible, because the stitches automatically get turned to face you. So you're simply going to work this all the way across until you get to your next corner, and then meet me back once you're ready. Okay, so now you've worked your way to your last stitch of this edge, we're going to work the corner. So as we are going to do with every corner, we're going to do a half treble, chain 2, and then a half treble. Rotate the work so that now we're going to work down the next edge, and then you might need to just twist the stitches slightly to work into that very first 3rd loop. So we're going to do the half treble into the 3rd loop, and then into the next stitch, and just as before, the more you build of this row, the more these stitches become visible because they're being pushed forwards. So just take your time with it, make sure that you're working into the right loop. If it's correct, you should be seeing this edge form just here. So what you want to do is pause the video, work your way down to your next corner, work that half treble, chain 2, half treble into the corner, work your next edge, corner, and then your next edge, and then meet me back once you get back to the beginning. Okay, so now that you've worked your way to the corner, you're going to do another half treble into that same corner space from the beginning, chain 2, and then join with a slip stitch to that very first half treble, and then we're simply going to repeat the pattern over and over. So it's chain 2, half treble into that chain 2 space for the corner, and then continue to do your half trebles into the 3rd loop of the next stitch and across the corner, or across the edge. So I'm going to go ahead and build a few more rows here, just so you can start to see what it looks like. Okay, so here we have the border with a few more rows added. We have 1, 2, 3, 4 rows. I think this border looks really nice when it's really quite chunky, so you know, a good few inches wide, but you can obviously adapt this to however wide you want your border to be. Obviously that will depend on how big your blanket is. Obviously this is just a small swatch, so it's going to look strange if I do any more, but this is just such a beautiful border. I think it just looks really clean, really modern, really fresh, and it would make a great addition to any blanket. And like I said before, you can use this on any amount of stitches, so it can be used on any size blanket. So there we go, that is the camel stitch border. Don't forget, I'm going to leave a few links in the description box below for you if you want to go to the written instructions. But thank you so much for watching. If you did like it, make sure you give me a thumbs up. Leave me a comment because I absolutely love to read your comments. And don't forget to tag me on social media if you give this a go, because I love to see your makes as well. Click that subscribe button and the bell button to be notified of when my next videos go live. But thank you so much for watching, and I shall see you again next time. Bye.